Level Motorsports left Spa last week with their tails tucked between their legs. Both Asturi and Acosta DNF'd at the famous Belgian track, leaving a chance for Munoz to not only take his second win, but close down on the points gap. It's jumped him into second place, but the road will assuredly be much tougher from here with the two teammates undoubtedly stealing their resolve. We'll see which directions things shift towards as we get ready to watch round 7 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ossian Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road America has already seen the GT4 cars take to the track last night. In case our viewers didn't tune in and want to know what it's all about, let's head to our track guide to learn a little bit more about Elkhart Lake. Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But two of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why. Road America gets used a lot here on iRacing. It's popular not just in the real world, but in the sim. So, Ozzy, for the second time this week, why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about Elkhart Lake?
Oh yes, 6.5 kilometers, bit over 4 miles, and a highly technical challenge, as direct as it looks, because every corner has its unique nature. It is a high-speed track. I always liken it to the Spa of America in one sense, because it has that Spa feel. It has those fast-flowing corners. It has those long straights, and you need to be on your toes constantly, especially with these fast GTE cars that really take no prisoners once you make a mistake, Joe.
That is true. They're going to be heading through some of them with quite a lot of speed. Now, as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsports fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. That championship has been turned upside down a little bit here. It was a big gap before, and it was Acosta and Asturi who were running away with things. But now look at this. Acosta only 6 points ahead of Munoz. Asturi down in third, barely 14 points back, but he was ahead of him last round. Rodrigo Mies winds up in fourth after that, only 18 points back from Acosta with his no score. And then Michael Ross as well closes in, rounding out the top 5. Even though it looked pretty hopeless for them before, suddenly hope shines anew. Ossian, I have to imagine that affected the team's championship pretty drastically too.
Yes, indeed. With Level Motorsport getting as many points last round as Nico Hülkenberg got podiums in Formula 1, that means the gap is now down to 20 points between Level Motorsports and the Punto CL Racing Blue. RSR Esport by G Performance, rounding out the top three in the Teams Championship, with Punto CL Racing Red and L1 Esports in the top five.
Funny that you mentioned that because I was just thinking it Sunday before the race took part that wouldn't it be wild if Hulkenberg came back and got himself a podium? Well, that was a
Yeah.
prophetic thought in the wrong way. So let's take a look at the race details of today's event as well. We are in round 7 out of 10. Not the time that you want to lose all those points because suddenly now things are tight when there's very few chances to try to extend that gap back up. 4 different makes of cars that they can choose from that are all listed on your screen, and a 60-minute race with open setup. So what that means here on iRacing is that anything you can do to the real cars, you can tweak here in the sim to try and find speed in the terms of the setup of the car. Now, they have incident caps, including a penalty there at 13, and then a complete disqualification at 20. And they have some bonus points, which, those drivers who are starting to catch up now, probably eyeing those and thinking they want to be clean, they want to be fast in qualifying, and, well, they want to be fast in the race to get that fastest lap to try and claw together and see if they can overtake Acosta. Before we get to the qualifying, though, we want to ask, are you looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions? From official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. And the qualifying right now, Abner Acosta has picked up the torch once again. He is currently at the top of the pole competition. Here is the provisional pole of Rodrigo Mies, though. Only 4 1,000ths behind him. Considering how long the lap is around here, over 2 minutes long, that is incredibly marginal. Just a sneeze of a difference around this track.
Yeah, not even a sneeze. It's more like a mosquito sneeze, with Rodrigo Mies being so little behind. He's going slow right now, though, and would you look at the gap between the next guys as well? Like, it's not only the top two. Okay, you got 2 tenths between Mies and Utreras, who's in third place, and then you got Utreras, Ross, Eisler, and Ruiz all in the mix as well. They're practically within half a tenth as well. So it's very, very close between all these guys, as you expect from here, kinda, but still such little gaps. It's really quite abnormal, and I just hope that we don't get any changing conditions in terms of drastic weather changes or anything in these last few minutes of qualifying, because it could potentially get very, very interesting show. And speaking of weather, I believe we have the possibility to bring that up as well, because it is 25 degrees Celsius air temp, 46 degrees Celsius track temp, and you can see the Fahrenheit equivalents of those on your screen. 78 degrees Fahrenheit, 140 degrees Fahrenheit for the track, so it's quite hot.
It's extremely hot. It's the second time in a row we've seen it be very hot here for this series. Now, it seems like it's a bit of good news, bad news for Bruno Asturi on it being so tight together there in the mid-pack, because he's only put 1 lap down. It was good enough for 7th. So that means that he's got a good chance of trying to jump up a lot of positions. But it also means that because they're so small, obviously it means that a lot of people have been past him here. So you mentioned Ross, Eisler, Ruiz that are within a 10th of him. It's going to take just a little bit of effort, but again, he does have to improve on his best so far here in the qualifying. Utreras down to the line. Seems like that lap did not count for him. And they have 7 minutes left here to try and improve upon things. So it seemed like last week being a little stuck lower in the pack was not good news for our level motorsports drivers. Acosta has avoided that because he's up on the pole, at least for the time being. Asturi has not, though. And if he gets caught up in another incident, that almost might be lights out for his championship hopes.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's not lights out for these guys yet. I must remind you that they do have 1 drop week in the championship in this series, meaning that they get to, drop their worst result. However, that worst result, they have now used it. It's a flat 0. so they can't afford another mistake. And with how you've seen chinks in the armor of the level motorsport guys here on the later part of the season, mid part, later part of the season, uh, just not much, but early on they were practically unbeatable, practically like just running away with each and every race win, and now they're not that good. So either other people have been catching up or they've been caught in a bit of a lull as Christian Eisler goes and takes the pole position.
Whoa.
By
Whoa.
look at the gap.
And it's 4 more thousandths between himself and Acosta. He immediately pulls off the track. I think he's... Oh, and Brito Asturi! Asturi is now to the pole. Our top 4 are separated by 29 thousandths of a second. And Munoz is up. What are the track conditions like? They're still comparable to before. Nothing much has changed.
1 degree lower. Yeah, sorry, Joe. I interrupted you really badly, but yeah, 1 degree lower. And there you see the effect that has, because Mies takes a 201.1. So now it's on. Wow, yeah.
What is happening? This is just ridiculous. Ross doesn't improve, but now Utredes goes back up to second.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
That's incredible because, it's just 1 degree, but that just goes to show you how tight this field is and how condensed it is. Immediately, once the wind turns, once you get a little bit of, a cooler track temp, you get just a tiny bit more grip, you get that confidence. And once you get that confidence and you were on the track at the right time, that's what happens. It started with Eisler, then with Asturi, then with Munoz, then with Mies, and then with Utreras as well. Utreras now in the 2nd place. And you know who's kicking himself absolutely right now for not being on track?
Abner Acosta, who didn't go quicker. Yeah, he got shuffled down to 6. He's got to be asking himself, what the heck just happened? I had a number 1 next to my name in my little position box inside the car. Now suddenly it's down to 6. That seems like quite a drastic swing. Hilton, who is the only car not to set a time, remains the car yet to set a time out of our 23 that are trying to start this race. So now we go to Bacigalupo. Currently sits in 11th. He comes off the final corner. He's pulling along Cal Quinn, who's actually ahead of him in the qualifying, but behind him on track. So let's see what kind of help that's going to give to him. No lap for Bacigalupo, no lap for Cal Quinn.
Yeah, and we are setting ourselves for 1 final round of laps. So it's gonna come down to the last few minutes. It always does in qualifying, but especially now with the changing conditions and with the weather just ever so slightly and the track ever so slightly getting better and better. Acosta abandoned his lap on the carousel, so it's gonna be really tight for him. Asturi is still on one, and we're watching Ted Lowendick. Ted Lowendick with either the best or the worst helmet in the field. We're gonna get to that later. We got to that already last night. Lowendick here coming across the line. Does he improve to a 2.5? No, he does not. So stay still in 12th position.
Mies crosses the line, but that one didn't count. He was given a tow to Felipe Ruiz, who also had a discounted lap. So here comes Asturi. Briefly held the pole, very briefly. And he's going to see if he can take 0.3 off of his time. No, he cannot, as he looks to be, as he was on an out lap. Paulo Munoz, who finds himself in 3rd now. Another driver lacking a time. He's going to get 2 more chances if he stays out there. So all of our front runners that improved last time through either went back in and came back on an out lap or could not find time on the next one through. Russo, who is coming up the hill, he sits in 9th place, 201.898. Doesn't go any quicker. Drivers having all kinds of trouble with the track limits here today.
Yeah, and Russo still trying for another one. And here we see Hilton coming across the line. Does he get a lap time? Yes, he does. And he goes 21st.
So still a little bit lower down in the field, but it's not over yet for him. He's got to stay out there and keep trying. We're down to under 2 minutes, which means drivers are now starting their final lap, their final flying lap. And Bacigalupo pulls over, decides he's had enough. He's not going to try and improve after that. Eisler, what can the Iceman do? He's got the 727 wound up off of the final turn and wound into the pit lane. No, he stays out. Looked like he was going to head in. His 201.464, is that going to stay put or does he go faster? No. That looks like his last try starts now. Lowendick up to the line. 72 goes faster by about 3/10. And that, unfortunately, is not going to give him a position. He stays P12.
Yeah, and I'm watching Paulo Munoz, who is not on a fast lap right now, mind you, but he's gearing up for one. He's going really slowly at the second to last corner, the Bill Mitchell bend, and then to the last corner he comes, and he's actually saving his tires a little bit, I think, for a good run here. Trying to get a good exit off here to the final corner, and here he comes. As we are watching Abner Acosta, can he improve on his time? Abner Acosta currently 6th. No, he can't, so stays in 6th place, and Munoz should be on a fast lap, should be a cracker. Just with 25 seconds left, he crosses the line and will be on hunt for a pole position. By the way, Joe, tidbit here. We got 3 different brands in top 5.
That parity is looking really good. Rafael Russo doesn't improve. Next car across is going to get the checkered flag. That's going to be Mies. So is this going to extend his gap on the pole? No, looks like it's a slow one. So Mies just getting a few more laps in. Pime Jr. does go faster. A 202.2 puts him up to 14th. Then you've got Felipe Ruiz, our winner last round. Last lap does not count for him. He stays put.
Yeah, so just a couple of guys left with their chances. You see Eisler there coming through Canada corner. Munoz, by the way, outside of your screens, made a mistake. He will not improve. So it's going to be on Eisler to crack that top 3 with the Porsche. He's currently sitting in 5th place. Already his best qualifying all season. But can he improve even on that show? No, he can't. Made a mistake on the final corner. That hurts.
2 wheels in the dirt. That is not what you want. So he's going to abandon it and take it down to pit lane. Cal Quinn having a lot of trouble coming out of Canada corner, so I doubt this is a fast lap for him. Let's see. You said Acosta made a mistake, correct? Because I see him next up the line.
No, Acosta, I didn't say anything about him. It was Paulo Munoz who made a mistake on his lap. But yeah, Acosta, he's coming next across the line and will be interesting to see if he can actually improve on his lap. So he's the final one out of who is still in top 5 contention pretty much out of the realistic contenders. So let's see if he can improve on his final lap coming up to the hill now. 201.467 to beat, and he does a 201.431, and that's a minor improvement, but it does take him into top 5 at least.
That's the last of our cars to try and qualify. Things completely flipped around from what they were before earlier in qualifying. Because remember, Asturi was stuck down in 6th while Acosta was on pole. Now Asturi's in 2nd and Acosta is in 5th. So that brings us to the grid, the starting grid here today for round 7 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Let's go through that starting order. Rodrigo Mies is on the pole. He's going to take that bonus point. He's still 4th in the points, so that could be critical for him. Asturi will be starting in 2nd place with Javi Utretas starting in P3. You got Paulo Munoz on the outside of row 2 next to him, and Abner Acosta seemingly not having the best of qualifying for part of this season. It's starting to become a concerning trend, and he's down in 5th. Christian Eisler, who is still looking for a championship in this series, and it's not going to come this season, but he's starting from 6th today and could get himself another podium. Michael Ross starts from 7th, and Felipe Ruiz will be P8. You've got Rafael Russo starting 9th today, and Horatio Cal Quinn rounds out your top 10.
Yep, indeed. Lucas Basicalubo starting 11th, and the hero of Mosport, J.R. Williams, 2016 points, 12th in our starting grid right now. Good qualifying for J.R. Ted Lowendick 13th, Luis Pime Jr. 14th, with Anderson Schmid 15th, and Pablo Valenzuela Uribe 16th. It's Dunnigan 17th, Lopez Torres 18th, Gush 19th, and Uitehart rounding out your top 20 with Matt Hilton, Ken Rodriguez, and James Nunn, the final 3 cars to start in this race. And interestingly enough, pole time 2:01.1 Joe, and we got 9 cars in sub 2:02s. So that's a real tight qualifying, and it's going to be a real tight race.
Yeah, I think my note that I had both for yesterday and today is going to be important, which is that staying with that front train and not losing it will be critical considering the closeness on pace. It's going to be a large front train unless they have some sort of disaster. As we wait for the pace car to take off and lead them around on the pace lap, it's 23 cars that are lining up. All 23 of them put laps in here in qualifying. It is a bit of a gap back to last there. And though lap traffic isn't as much of an issue typically here at Road America, both due to the length and the fact that there's so many long straightaways. It's what, about 4 seconds difference between Mies and James Nunn. So they'll have to keep their eyes out as things progress and hope that they don't get caught up in the wrong place. I think we've just waiting on Utretis and Cal Quinn to get out there. I almost feel like it has this sense, this race, Ozzy, that like we saw with last round, this could be a turning point. Acosta's lost his huge gap. Asturias now suddenly mired back in third in the points. I mean, it feels like they've got to turn things around today or else.
Yeah, this is the point. If this was a movie, this would be the point when the montage would end, and this would be the first race properly covered, and we got the big drama point here as well. What will that drama be? I don't know, but it just has that feel of a great sporting event. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but there is that electricity in the air, with me sitting on the pole position, with Asturias second, and Asturias clinging on to his championship hope, Munoz clinging on, Acosta trying to recover from the disappointment last week, and so many other storylines as well. What can Javi Utreras do? He's in third place. It's gonna be potentially his big comeback to the podium contention. We got so many interesting things to look out for in this event, and only way you can find out what will happen is if you keep following this race for the next hour. But we got a long pace lap here, so Joe, what's your favorite corner in Road America?
Favorite corner in Road America. Oh boy. I'd probably it's hard to say because they each have kind of little annoyances to them that make them extra tricky, but I'd say turn 5 probably because when you really nail it and you hit that braking right, it feels good. I hate the little, you can see it here, it turns in the braking zone there and it
Yeah.
just annoys the heck out of me. So again, I'm going to commit a little bit of heresy, Ossian. I'm not really a big fan of driving here. Just never really enjoyed driving here all that much.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I know a lot of drivers are probably gasping out there right now, but I tend towards more technical tracks. Road Atlanta and Barber are much more my favorites.
Road Atlanta is less technical than Road America. I'm gonna say it right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because people think of Road Atlanta as a technical track. It's got one technical sector, and then it's basically straight, Lesmo, straight chicane. Go on.
Okay, I'll give you that. By the way, just a note, because I was checking out the driver chat, the text chat here in the sim, and we've noted that the Porsches have not really had great pace. BMW's kind of been stuck in the same thing this last season. So they haven't been, the drivers in those cars haven't been as big of a factor. But even Michael Ross has commented that he says Christian's figured that Porsche out now that he's put it all the way up into 6th place. Eisler certainly impressing his peers out there on track. The question is, can he carry that over to the race here today? And now we come through the kink. This one always terrifying in just about every car that you try and take through it. Very difficult to try and get speed through there, especially in GT cars where it isn't usually quite flat out. And then one of the more unusual places that passes can happen, but I find, again, the change of direction in the track here into Canada Corner, Ozzy, I feel like it causes so many miscommunications.
Yeah, you're right. And it's such a long braking zone as well. Like, it's a longer and shorter braking zone at the same time. It's kind of like Schrodinger's corner, where you can both go on the brakes too late and too early at the same time. And here we come to my favorite corner, the Bill Mitchell bend. It's just a perfect corner. I can't explain why, but it's one of my favorites because it's so technical and so tight. And then the final corner, and I think they're gonna come to the start of this race.
They are indeed. They're going to give Mies control as the Porsche pace car exits the final turn. And Asturi's kind of waiting behind him. He's getting a little bit of room. He wants that visual to make sure and watch. Pace car's in. Mies waits. He's waiting for quite a while. He's stacking them up behind him. A long wait for him. Green flag is out, and now he goes. And it's not a good start at all. Asturi is already coming up alongside him. And in fact, it is 2 by 2 for the top 4. A little bit of a look as it seems Acosta is boxed in 5th. Now they're going to go side by side as we had a car off in the background. Everybody trying to sort themselves through turn 1. It is going to be Mies who comes out in first. Asturi has to play defense as Munoz goes around the outside. Too far around the outside as he goes into the grass, and Utredes claims third.
Oh no, that's Paulo Munoz way out in the grass, and he's gonna be lost. The other guy, Pablo Uribe, was the guy we saw earlier, and they're gonna join forces now in the back of the field. So that's a big heartbreak for those guys in lap number 1.
Wow. Just a horrible start for the two of them. Utredes is loving that as he's now up to third. They're getting pretty single file down into turn 5, except in the back of the field. Your order is Mies, Asturi, Utredes, Acosta up to 4th, and Ross finds himself in P5 from 7th on the grid.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great start for Ross. Obviously helped by Munoz going off, and we were wondering what the drama is going to be. Well, Munoz going off in lap number 1, no damage, fortunately. But that's a big drama moment for him, and this is the point. Again, if this was a movie, you would get this really upbeat, epic music as he charges through the field. But we are gonna have to watch and wait and see if that actually happens.
We had a big wreck in the back of the field earlier through turn 6 involving Dunigan, Lopez, Torres, and Schmidt. They all managed to get it going, but they actually got Dunigan up in the air when they got hit. So that probably did some serious damage to the car. Now, as we come back live here to look at the battle for second place, that is Asturi trying to hold off the Ford of Utredes. They're going to be wanting to get a good exit off of the final corner. Number 10 did a decent job of it. Behind them, keep an eye on Acosta because Michael Ross and that matte black Ford GT got a very good exit, but I don't think he's got the lack of downforce because he starts to lose out as they get closer and closer to turn 1, and he doesn't even take an attempt at it.
He was lifting, yeah. He was lifting already earlier on in the straight, well, earlier on, but coming to the braking zone, he was lifting a little bit, and I don't think he wants to harass Acosta too much. He's a smart driver. He knows that Acosta's got the pace. I mean, Abner's, he's been a champion for a reason many times, and he wants to give him that chance, but now he's got such a good exit. Oh, he's still lifting, yeah. You're gonna see Ross lifting a lot there.
So, thinking about fuel early, maybe, as Asturi has a bit of a bobble down into turn 5. Utredes, does he want to try and sneak it up the inside? He thinks about it. Doesn't look like a serious attempt, but it does shake Asturi off the apex yet again. And he stays tucked right underneath that rear wing. Out of turn 7, 2 wheels in the grass. Bruno Asturi, that dramatic music is getting louder and louder as we keep seeing mistakes come out of the second place car.
Yeah, you would get about 10 camera changes within 20 seconds there. But Utredes, he's now biding his time. He's looking for his chances. He knows he's got Asturi, if not on his back foot, then at least leaning towards defensive stance here. As Asturi, he can't right now focus on trying to catch up to Mies, but he has to take it to the absolute limit at the kink. I love watching these 4 GTs go through the kink. They're absolutely on the edge. A little bit of connection issues for Asturi too, and that has to be affecting Utredes' confidence going side by side, because when you can't see the car really, when the car's blinking in and out, it's kind of difficult to gauge where they're going to be. But so far so good for Utredes and Asturi. They haven't come together quite yet, and behind them still Acosta and Ross trying to catch them up.
Mies is certainly one that's loving this too, because it's allowing him to stretch it out to about 1.1 seconds. If they go in much farther back at all, they'll probably be fully out of the slipstream effects, but slipstream is working well for second place because Utredes is through, and that looked like a lift from Bruno.
Yeah, I think Bruno realizing the situation. Meanwhile, further back, we got 2 by 2 actually for 15th and 16th. The reason I bring this up is that this is right ahead of our championship contender, Paulo Munoz. who is there sitting in what is now the 17th position as he gets past Ken Rodriguez. So he's trying to get those positions, and this is an interesting charge. And will he try it into turn number 3? Oh, you betcha he will. And nothing Uiteha can do there other than watch and learn as Munoz goes by. So it's not quite over for him yet. He's actually 13.8 seconds behind the leaders last time by. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. He's 14.6 seconds behind the leaders. So less than 15 to the lead. And shades of Rodrigo Mies last week, perhaps.
This is very true. By the way, let's take a look at that incident as we go back to look at this first lap here in turn 3 with Munoz. Acosta went way too deep into turn 5. Still didn't lose the position to Ross, even though he easily could have stuck his nose up the inside. But Acosta similarly looking kind of shaken like his teammate is right now. This is the run up to turn 1.
Yeah,
see the car in the background go off.
Yeah, that's gonna be Uribe. Uribe going off in the background here, and a couple of cars actually having a bit of contact there. Few guys going 3 wide, and 10 here as you come. Munoz is gonna go off. He's gonna be on the outside and just pretty much outbrake himself. 2 wheels on the grass, and there you go. Grass doesn't have good grip, so he's gonna try to turn it in. But as said, very fortunate to have no damage there.
Yeah, I think he didn't anticipate the cold tires. Meanwhile, poor Christian Eisler's already lost 2 positions since we last looked. He's been demoted down to 8th. Both of those happened quite a while ago. It's Russo and Ruiz who are in front of him. But look at who's all around him. This is a huge train. Calquin's in there. Bacigalupo, Williams, Lowendick, Pime Jr. And it goes all the way back to Gotch in 14th.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a battle pack, I think. I don't think these guys are gonna be worried too much about fuel saving. Well, actually, it depends on where you are in this train. If you're comfortable pace-wise, if you think that you got the pace to pass a couple of guys, then absolutely go for it. But if you're on about equal pace, then you might as well save fuel a little bit more than the next guy. And Rafael Russo in front of this train, well, right behind Felipe Luis, he's gonna have to be the aggressor here at this point. And he's gonna have to make the conscious decision on whether he wants to attack or whether he wants to play this safe, because they're still not too far from Acosta and Ross as well. So if he trusts Felipe Luis to have the pace, then he's gonna let him lead. But if not, he's gonna go for that overtake.
Well, I think we're gonna get a cat amongst the pigeons in terms of that train, though, because Munoz is gonna be catching them pretty quickly. We've been kind of half following his charge through. He's got about 5 seconds to make up. I suspect even if they aren't fighting, it's not going to take him long. And when he starts passing cars, that's going to create opportunities. So I'm expecting things to get a little bit chaotic amongst them once he enters the fray. You see them heading out of the kink. Boy, you are not kidding when you talk about those GTE cars just sliding through that corner. Just ahead of them, that is Acosta, still ahead of Michael Ross and giving him a big tow.
Indeed he is, and Ross is getting closer and closer, but he's lifting every time he has a chance to overtake. Even though Michael Ross is looking like he has good pace in that matte black Ford GD, but he just hasn't gone for the overtake yet. And I think he's playing it safe for the fuel stops, and he's also thinking, I can't afford to battle here, because if I start to battle here, these guys are gonna catch us up in no time, and then it's gonna be a big train between all of us basically. So Ross is just thinking, I'm gonna let him to try and get his rhythm and try and bide my time here. But yeah, Acosta's been surprisingly lackluster on his race pace so far, it must be said. Like, he hasn't been fast at all. It hasn't been the usual Abner Acosta fighting with guys like Asturi in the lead. No, he's lost 5 seconds to the leaders already.
I guess the one consolable thing for him as they come down to turn 5 is that Munoz, who is the one chasing him in the points, is much farther back right now. It'll take him a while to try and get back into the fight with Acosta if he can run him down. Back behind them, that train all coming through turn 5, and the gap already between Munoz and them. Remember I said it was about 5 seconds? It's 3.8 already.
Yeah, so he's catching up, and what he's wanting right now, what's Munoz thinking? Munoz is thinking, come on, fight in that pack, please start fighting, because he's gonna see that pack absolutely in front of him. And when he sees that back, he's gonna think, huh, I have a lot of positions to be gained, but I want them to battle now so I can get through them as quick as possible. That's gonna be what he desires at this moment, to get back at least some of them those points and to limit his damages. Meanwhile, we are watching actually on board Munoz, yeah, coming through the kink, and wow, this is one of my favorite cameras out there. Honestly, you can just see how fast these guys are going between these forests, between these trees, and between these walls, and not much place to go off either if you get it wrong.
Yeah, if you ever wanted to know what it looks like when the red mist is down, this is the helmet cam. So this is the driver's perspective here inside the car, trying to play catch up. Also, as we continue to watch him play catch up, Utretis is doing that himself. It's only half a second between first and second place. I'm not sure if Mies is intentionally moderating his pace here, or if this is genuine that Javi Utretis is pushing hard and trying to claw him back.
Uh, could be a little bit of both, Me is not wanting to take too many risks, but then again, he's the kind of driver, he's a smart driver, but he's also a very fast driver, and I don't think he's the kind of guy to let anyone catch him up if he can help it. So Utreras, he's got a solid pace, and now he's got the draft helping him as well. And now that Utreras got rid of Asturi, then it's been pretty much a game of chase, and he's pulling Asturi right along with him as well. So it's gonna be a three-way battle for the lead, and all of those three guys in different teams. So there's not gonna be any team games being played either. Me is still continuing to lead, but for how long? That's my question. And another question is Utreras going to be passing him, trying to take that lead, because he's got the pace to take the lead, as Mies is actually making a bit of a mistake, taking a little bit too far to the inside on the carousel there, losing a bit of time, getting a bit of a wiggle. Or does he want to play it safe and play fuel saving? Because that's an important factor also. He's got the leader's draft. Mies is not going to go anywhere from there. Does he want to save fuel and take the lead on the pit stop? That is the least exciting way, but that's also a very, very strategic and very smart way to take it. So he has decisions to make here, certainly.
Interesting stat for you on Utretis, by the way. It hasn't won a race this season. Couple stats for you. Hasn't won a race. Also hasn't had a podium. Hasn't had a top 5. Hasn't had a top 10. This is going to be an incredible story if Javi Utretis comes in and wins this thing, especially just on raw speed. Right now, it's looking pretty good, but knock on your favorite piece of wood here, because it's not over. It's still 47 minutes left to go and a lot of racing left. But Javi Utretis showing quite a bit of pace and already now starting to hound the number 88 as he closes within a car length.
Yeah, and one change since last week, Javier Utreras, he has a spotter actually right now with him. And you can have that on iRacing, where not only the iRacing's own spotter, but you can also have somebody spectating you specifically and do pit calls and stuff like that for you. And he's got a guy called Nicolas Nolivos there spotting for him. I don't know who Nicolas is, could be a teammate, could be a friend, but obviously, I mean, bring him along again if that's the effect he's gonna have. And I think he's having, requesting some help and maybe getting help in terms of calming him down or helping with the setup adjustments or race strategy or whatever. But it's having a great effect so far on Javi.
We're getting a little bit of battling in that pack we were watching before. Lowendick and Williams tussling for 11th position. That's costing them some time on Bacigalupo up in 10th. If we switch over there, you'll be able to see the visual gap between them. They haven't been caught by Munoz yet, but it's now down to 2 seconds. If they keep doing this, they'll be increasing that rate that it's coming down. There you see it on screen, the distance between the first group and the second group.
Yeah, you can see it very much there. And now it's now the initiative is on Ted Lowendick because he's gotten past J.R. Williams on this lap. But now he's been trusted leading this group onto the next group. So okay, you got the pass done. Now what can you do for me?
Munoz had a problem. Oh, Munoz was in the wall, I think, out of
he's
the
in the wall again. He's in the wall again. Yeah, he's still in the wall. He's out.
Oh, this just happened. If we can get a replay of the 3-2-1, just went a little bit wide out of the kink. That's all it took. This is after the initial contact. Here we go.
Yeah, so he's gonna come through the kink here, out of carousel. He's gonna see those guys. He's chasing those guys. He has the bit of mist descent upon him. He turns in a little bit too early. Then he goes a little bit too wide, just out of the line, just a touch, and then goes to the inside wall. And immediately when he hit that wall, he knew that's his day over. So Paulo Munoz, our championship contender, in the second place of the championship out of this race. Wow.
So as we come back to the lead, the battle up at the front with Javi down to the inside. Not much of a defense from Mies, though, well, he stays with it. So I guess that defense is coming through, but he's doing it the hard way. And around the outside of turn 6 almost never works. So now he has to give it up and falls to second place. Javi Utreras up to the top spot.
His car is working brilliantly today, and what a good move. That's what I wanted to see from Javi, honestly. You know, you always want to see the leaders going at it from the early point out. And Rodrigo Mies, he's now, I think he's thinking, okay, this guy's got the pace. Can I stay with him? What can I do here? What is he doing so different from me? Why has Javi Utrera suddenly got this pace? And Mies is following him through. Whoa! That's a big moment through the kink for Rodrigo. Mies manages to save it, however, and it goes to show you how difficult it is to suddenly drive in the dirty air. So look for some mistakes from Rodrigo Mies, perhaps in these next couple of corners also, because he now has a bit more understeer than he is used to all throughout this race, and he's gonna kind of having to, you know, adapt to it as the race goes along. But he's an experienced driver, so I'm sure it's not gonna be too much of an issue for him.
And a small correction on myself from earlier in the broadcast. It was not Ruiz that won at Spa. It was Munoz. Ruiz took the pole last week. As we watch this top spot, I've been going back and checking on those two packs that we've been kind of checking in on here and there. And we're going to look at sixth place right now, which is, I think, yes, at the front of the first train. Them not battling has me wondering, is this just a whole bunch of drivers that are thinking long term, that are already looking to fuel save a little bit? They're not interested in battling. They know it's going to behoove them to just kind of wait for the race to come to them and see what the second half brings.
Well, when you look at that pack, you got a lot of experience and a lot of racing skill in that pack as well. You got Russo, you got Ruiz, you got Eisler, you got Calquin, you got Pasigalupo. So those guys know the situation. They know that, okay, this is not over yet. We're just 20 minutes into this race. There's still not even 20 minutes into this race, so there's still over halfway to go. No point battling right now. It's not going to settle anything. And I think they know the qualifying times, and they're being honest enough. Honest with themselves in that they're not faster than the guy ahead. They just have the draft. They're not faster than the guy behind, really. So what's the point of taking the position right now if you're going to lose it next lap anyway? And therefore, you can save fuel. You can just let Rafa Russo do the hard job of leading this train, and everybody's saving fuel behind. And it also has the added benefit of getting away from guys like Lowendick, Williams, Pine Jr., and Gutch as well. So, you know, they want to separate themselves from the back behind, and they also want to play the long con. So it's making me very, very curious to see what's going to happen with those guys as the race progresses.
Lowendick still trying to hustle to get back up to Bacigalupo. Has about a 1.3 second gap from that Ferrari to the Ford up in front. Everybody slowing it down into Canada corner. Getting a little bit close, though, between the likes of Gotch and Williams back in 13th and 14th. Let's see it from Gotch's perspective here. Another one of our Ford drivers. He tries to stay as close as he can.
Yeah, and this is really his time to shine. If he wants to make that move, he has to be doing it soon. If he wants to elevate himself to the next pack, he's closing on the main straight, closing once again. Is he gonna go to the inside? Potentially trying it into turn number one. Oh yeah, he's gonna go for it and gonna get past as well. That's a late move, late breaking move. Well done, and that's a car out in turn one as well. That's Felipe Ruiz out in turn number one.
So last week's pole sitter unfortunately finds himself compromised as we watch this fight head down the Moraine sweep. We're going to go back to the replay now to see what exactly happened here. Did he get shoved off? No, he did not. Wheels in the grass do not work well. Ruiz off into the kitty litter.
Yeah, and that's not by much either. He was an inch too wide there and just spun around as he hit the brakes, and he hit the grass as he hit the brakes, and that's what's gonna happen. So Ruiz feeling a little bit silly after that one probably, but he still has time and he didn't hit anything, so that's a good thing.
So taking a look now at seventh place. This is, of course, Christian Eisler. Starting to become the head of the train because Russo's pulled away by about 2 seconds now. I don't know if Christian had some sort of mistake happening, but he is well out of the draft. Well, let's stay here, but a quick update. Bit sad news for Matt Hilton fans. He was all the way up to 15th, had gained a ton of spots, and then he lost it coming out of the final turn. I think he may have clattered the wall a little bit there as well, and he's fallen back to 19th. So he's got to do that work all over again. Coming through Canada corner here for Christian Eisler is Punto CL Racing Team teammate of Cal Quinn, following behind in his Ford. Don't expect pit stops at this point in the race. There's generally not a whole lot of variety that this series puts up here in the GTE cars. Most everybody follows the philosophy of waiting as late as possible, and especially on a draft track like this, I imagine it'd be somewhat foolish to duck away early.
Yeah, unless you got a big pack ahead of you or you want to make some sort of gains while people are fighting, then it might make sense. But otherwise, it's the fastest plan on paper and usually fastest plan on track. Now, as we are watching the leaders here briefly, I wanna mention something about Eisler and why he's lost so much time to Russo. The reason is that he was actually drafting Felipe Ruiz, so he was kind of like following Ruiz, and once Ruiz was out of the picture and Eisler half a second away, then suddenly Rafael Russo has a chance for a breakaway here, and he's utilizing that chance really well. But watching the leaders are really impressive so far. Again, knock on your favorite piece of wood, whatever it may be. But, Utreras has been really, really impressive so far in this race.
I mean, I was keeping an eye on what the gap was between Munoz and Acosta, but that's sort of a moot point anymore. By the way, Munoz are only DNF so far. Dunnigan did get back out after extensive repairs from his opening lap accident. None has been in and out, but I don't think that is scheduled either for the number 75. Still 22 cars out on track here today. We're going to go back to that seventh place spot to Christian Eisler with Cal Quinn still riding very closely behind. Both of them keeping it tidy, coming through the kink and then up towards Canada corner. They are pulling away from Bacigalupo now themselves, and Bacigalupo is certainly continue to hold that gap to Lowendick that we mentioned a little bit earlier in this broadcast. You can see as we ride on board with Eisler looking back, the distances between the cars. So while it was a bit of a train, a bit of a procession earlier in the race, things now starting to break up a little bit, looking like it's getting to be harder and harder. Did the tires wear out a little bit quicker when you follow that closely to the car head and the wake?
Yeah, absolutely, because you have to work the tires harder, and you have to work the tires harder to, get the car turned into the corner. You're braking a little bit, well, you're saving fuel, so that offsets it a little bit. But still under braking and turning in the corners, especially in the fast corners, which Road America has a lot, like turn number 1, the carousel, the kink especially, and Canada corner, kind of the Bill Mitchell bend. You're working those tires hard, and you want to keep the rear tires in shape. And we've seen what can happen with these cars earlier this season if you don't keep those tires in shape. So people are gonna have to really consider when to attack. It's kind of like distance running in that sense, but your stamina is your tire life and your fuel. So in that sense, you have to consider your attack. When are you going to attack the guy? And do you still have reserves left? Can you afford to attack someone, or do you have to wait and see further on? By the way, something I want to mention about our leaders is that Utreras and Mies have been slowly dropping Bruno Asturi.
That is correct, because it's about a second back to the number 16. Ooh, did he go wide there through the kink? I think he was a little bit wide. We're riding on board with him now to see how he can handle this car, this bright yellow and black Ford GT. I'll be honest, I ran cross country back in my high school days, and pacing myself was always the most difficult part for me. I could never really quite feel out how fast I was going. Wonder if Bruno's suffering the same fate here as the car drops off, and another little bobble coming off of the final turn costs him a couple more hundredths. Bruno, or excuse me, Rodrigo Mies riding just behind Jutretis after being overtaken. This almost looks like Mies kind of was willing to let that happen, knowing that he could use this to his advantage for the remainder of the first stint.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Eisler's in. Did Eisler have an
Oh,
issue?
that's
He
interesting.
did. Eisler had a wreck coming out of the final turn, and that is why he's coming down to pit lane. Here's the replay.
Oh yes, here we're gonna see Isler coming in there, turning in normal. It goes normal so far. Oh, he's gonna go too wide. Yeah, he's going too wide and to the inside wall. You don't wanna do that. And again, Joe, we've been talking about inches, absolute inches.
They make the difference. They make all football a game of inches, but I think racing is down to centimeters practically. And oh man, they have no spare car in this series, so Eisler is looking less than stellar and probably won't look very good for the remainder of the race, even if he returns after taking some spare parts. Meanwhile, we've back to the leaders through the carousel. Utretis ahead of Mies, ahead of Asturi. Maybe Bruno was listening to us because look at this. It's gone down by 3/10. It's now 7/10 of a
Yeah.
second between P2 and P3.
Yeah, and last time by, Utreras had a bit of a slower lap. He had a 203.9 rounded up, and Asturi had a 203.3. The gap was a little bit larger at the start of the lap. So it's gonna be interesting. Now they let Asturi back into the draft. It's gonna be interesting to see the lap times here, because I'm wondering if Utreras is also probably suffering a bit from tire life. He doesn't look that way. I mean, his car looks fine, honestly, the way it's handling, the way it's turning into those corners, the way he's using the track. He doesn't look like he's charging as much as Asturi was charging last time by. Like Asturi was taking those corners very wide and, really taking chances there. Utreras once again, 203.4, Mies 0.5, Asturi 0.4, so it's stabilized once again. But yeah, interesting times in this race, certainly.
Let's stay put here, but I can tell fans of the 727 car, Eisler returned to the track after just small repairs, I have to admit, but he's down in 20th. So I think, yeah, he's well within the pit window. So he can get to the end from here, but it's still not looking good. Maybe at best a top 10 for him if he gets lucky. As we come down the Moraine sweep, this looks close, but so does the battle, well, the sort of battle between Acosta and Ross. Not really a fight, if we're honest, between those two. Here's we ride on board with Abner now, looking back at Michael Ross. He's been dutifully holding behind him, just appropriately for this deep black matte car, playing like his shadow today.
Yeah, he is, and I wonder if he's trying to be like a stealth fighter, flying under the radar and then just getting him on the pit stops. And I think Acosta has at least a vague idea of what Ross is doing here. But I'm still surprised by Acosta's pace. He just hasn't had the pace today. He's 8.3 behind the leaders. I wonder if he's been, the only explanation is that he's been saving tires all the early part and then gonna come absolutely alive on the later part because they're not gonna change tires. So that's my only explanation. That or he's still been saving fuel, behind the leading trio despite not having the draft. Those are the only two reasons, because I don't think Acosta on raw pace could beat his slow, or could it be that the top three just has been that fast? It could be a little bit of both. It could be strategy games, but honestly, it surprises me a lot, which is why I keep talking about it, because there's no real reasonable explanation. Usually, this is the time of the season when Acosta comes alive.
Yeah, I mean, even I have the beautiful mind numbers going across my head right now because I'm trying to do the math. And if Acosta, usually if we see someone try to save fuel and use a little bit of a jump, it's 2 seconds maybe. It's not a huge gap typically that you can try and make up, but it's significant in a close fight. That's not going to get him 8 seconds up. He's now 9 seconds back from the leaders, by the way. And if
No, it's
he's
not.
saving tires, I wouldn't think he could make up 9 seconds after the pit stops.
No, it could be a combination of both where, he realizes that he doesn't quite have the pace after the start to stay with the top three. He lost the draft and then he's just playing it safe and not, falling into the trap of going too hard in order to try and catch up to them. Because I've been, expressing my 100% theory many times on this channel, especially in the last couple of broadcasts, but I think we're going to talk about it again, Joe. The fact that driving at 100% is your upper limit, the ultimate limit. And then if you go beyond 100%, it's not a good thing, it's a bad thing. And we saw what happened to Munoz, for example, when he went above 100%. We saw what happened to Iceberg when he went above 100%. Acosta doesn't want to be the guy to go over 100%. Instead, he realizes that his fight is not with the top three unless something happens to them. His fight is with Michael Ross. And he's embracing that fight, and he realizes that, hey, I'm gonna be fourth or fifth in this race, and I'm gonna make everything. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna be fourth instead of fifth to maximize my points gain. And he's just showing his experience there very well.
Certainly is, as these two stay stuck together. Ross in the black Ford, Acosta in the yellow machine. Now, a little bit farther back, there's been a bit of a battle brewing. Lowendick, who's caught up bit by bit to Bacigalupo, he's closed it down now to 1.2 seconds, is feeling some pressure from Luis Pime Jr. The number 17 even took a few looks here and there, but nothing quite serious. So Teddy is certainly going to be feeling some of that pressure here soon. And I'm sure he's hoping that maybe he could try and pull away. Now, we noticed this last night. Maybe now's a good time since we were talking about him. If we want to go on board with Teddy and see if we can get the rear view mirror.
No.
Well, we're not going to see it on the helmet cam, that's for sure. As, wow, closing in there in the... we don't have a rear view mirror here in this machine. So we're not going to get to see. Dougie doesn't have any cameras facing the helmet cam. But for those that missed it last night, playing to our egos, Teddy put all of our faces, myself, Ozzy, and then a third commentator, Peter, who sometimes jumps in here, on his helmet just so that he could get some more screen time. It worked, but it also made us laugh a lot. So kudos to Teddy for a good gag that caught us off guard.
And speaking of Teddy, do you know what's the most adorable beverage you can have after a race?
Okay, you got me. What is it?
Teddy beer.
Good one. Right now, Teddy is got himself up to 9th after starting this race in 13th. He's been climbing forward. I'm sure he would like to get a little bit farther forward, drink champagne instead, but a podium probably a little bit outrageous at this point. He doesn't even call himself a teddy bear. He prefers Slick for his nickname. We are starting to get to that pit window opening. Well, I mean, pit window has been open, but to where drivers think it's realistic to come in. We're 27 minutes left on the clock. Expect drivers in maybe, about 20 minutes left up there in the upper left?
Yeah, 22 minutes. It's a long lap, so they can't really afford to, go for that one extra lap, and it's gonna take a lot more saving to go for that one extra lap. And Utreras and Mies are now going pretty much equal lap times in front, and they have dropped Asturi a little bit further back once again.
Ooh, Ross is going for it. After sitting patiently behind all race long, Michael Ross sticks it up the inside, and Acosta doesn't fight it. He lets him go through. For the first time all race, Ross claims P4.
So he's in his target. That's what it's gonna mean. These drivers are, when you're talking about fuel saving, they use external software usually to calculate fuel targets and see how much they're using per lap. And they're using, let's say it's gonna be 3.5 liters per lap. And that's about 1 gallon or something. I don't know. My conversions are way off. But yeah, 3.5 liters per lap, 3.5. And they're gonna see, okay, you're gonna need to do 3.3 liters per lap for the first stint in order to save 1 lap of fuel. Because it's gonna be, if you're using 3.5 per lap, then you're gonna have to save that amount of liters to do 1 extra lap. It's really simple math, but doing that while driving can be complicated because you can't really see your exact fuel usage without the use of external apps. And I think Michael Ross realized that he's been in the safe margin. he has managed to now save enough, and now he can get past Abner Acosta, and he can start using that fuel. And it's really interesting. Not only has he gotten past Abner Acosta quite cleanly, but he's dropping him way back. Look at Acosta. He's nowhere.
Wow. So Ross really was holding back and just biding his time, starting to drop him. Speaking of dropping cars, Asturi's climb back forwards was a bit of a false dawn. He's now back to 1.4 seconds behind Rodrigo Mies. There you see it on
Mies
track, and
speeding.
he's coming in along with Mies while Utretas continues.
Yeah, Utreras was faking the pit and then realizing, oh, he's gonna go on. And then Mies was speeding and Asture was speeding, and Mies was really on the limit on the pit entry there as well. He wants to save as much time as possible. Ross is speeding as well, and this is surprising. Michael Ross is speeding at the same lap than Mies and Asture. And I wonder, I can't help but wonder if Utreras has enough fuel to make it one more lap, because I don't think he's been able to save at any point.
Yeah, this has got to be a case of Ross maybe just coming in a little bit early, maybe assuring himself that he has a partner to work with here at the end. Let's watch and see what it's like between them on the pit stops. Ross was doing a lot of lifting. This is Mies back out and returning to the racetrack. That was Asturdi following him out.
And that's
Acosta
a short
and
stop
Ross
for.
gone.
Yeah, that's a short stop for Rosso. He was a little bit fueling just a little bit less, and that's the advantage you have when you have extra fuel, is that you can fuel a little bit less, or you can be more conservative without losing time to your opponents. And those guys really now are no longer saving anything, and that's the good part. This is when this race comes alive. We got the strategy down. Now it's all about driving, mano a mano. And I'm still watching Utreras. And I'm kind of, okay, I'm talking, so I'm not holding my breath, obviously. But I'm still kind of, just expecting almost that car to start stuttering any moment now. But it looks like he's going to make it.
Only Utretas, Cal Quinn, and Pime Jr. stayed out on this lap to be able to make it to lap 18. I guess you could say 19, as they will cross the line coming up the hill in the pit lane, assuming Utretas goes in this time. I'd be absolutely shocked if he continues. He is going to pit. It's a long ways back to the next car. Very few of them stayed out this time by. So Mies, well, he's currently coming through the kink. There he is on screen right now. The Punto CL car is wringing everything out of it as he bounds over the curbs out of the kink.
Yeah, and now if you want to watch the pit stop times and compare them with each other, you can go to gsrc.tv on your phone or your browser window or your laptop or your pad or whatever you use. And you can watch the pit stop times as well as the lap times from there. But yeah, Utreras is now stationary. We're watching Mies because that's a little bit more interesting, and he's out of the final corner now. When is Utreras going to be underway? He's stationary. He's still stationary. He's still stationary. Now he's underway. And Mies is at the start-finish line now. So Utreras is now underway, and he's on the exit, and he's going to regain the race lead.
And it was a full second faster for Utretas. I mean, if you were worried about fuel before for him, maybe you should be even more concerned now. Did he short fuel it? Or is this because he went a lap longer?
Well, you can get more accurate, measurements of the fuel. Accurate predictions is the word I was looking for, of the fuel when you go one lap longer. You can predict it better. You can see, okay, what's the amount of laps left? And that's the real question. How many laps do we have left? And the drivers have to usually you play it safe and you add 1 lap extra of fuel, just in case. But if you drop that 1 lap extra, then you're gonna be like, okay, well, now I better make sure that, or I have to be sure that it's gonna be these laps, for example, 10 laps, and not 11 laps. Because if it's 11 laps, congratulations, you have just lost the race win. But because you're going to be running out of fuel. But, it's one of those things. It was certainly a fast stop for Utreras. And not only that, but he was also able to utilize that fast lap time. The in-lap was fast. Because while Rodrigo Mies was trying to get used to his slightly colder tires thanks to a pit stop, he didn't change them, but they were still cold due to being stationary. And his heavy car. He was driving with a heavy car. and trying to get used to the feel, while Utreras was driving with qualifying fuel basically, or no fuel at all in that car, and hot tires. So he was, able to bring that lap maybe 1 second faster, maybe even over 1 second faster, and that's enough to make a difference. In addition to his faster fuel pit stop.
Oh, Asturi behind him. Asturi's off track. Ross is a long ways back, so I don't think he's going to catch up to him. But Bruno, oh, maybe he will. Is this? No, that's done again. That's a lapped car. The car just starts to slide. It's like the grip just suddenly goes away. Watch this.
He's just on the brakes too late. As we come into the corner, you're gonna see he's coming too fast into the corner. No other explanation there, and he just lost the grip, and he's sliding away, and that's gonna use the tires even more. And that's gonna be one of those things where you kind of, when you come into the corner fast, sometimes you get this feel of you're not quite sure if it's gonna turn. That's called being on the edge, where you're absolutely on the limit. You're kind of like, you're no longer turning into the corner. You have to wheel almost straight because it's oversteering so much. And that's the situation Bruno Asturi got himself in, and just a bit of a silly mistake. But in fairness to Asturi, he had to charge because he had still a chance to catch up to Mies and potentially to race leader Utreras as well, but now he's lost that chance.
Well, the pit stops are done, and drivers have actually separated a little bit. So let's go through our top 10 while things have stabilized to update our viewers on what's been happening with everybody. Starting with our leader, Utreras, qualified in third, was briefly on the pole, and it seems like he maybe should have been on pole because his race pace is incredible today. He stayed behind Mies briefly, took the lead away, hasn't looked back since, and dropped him in the pit stops. Now Mies, who we see on screen right now, he was under threat from Asturi after the stops before that little mistake, but now Rodrigo is kind of all on his lonesome. Mies is still in the championship hunt, only 18 points back coming into this race from Acosta, so this second place will still be valuable. Same thing with Asturi. Remember, he's been chasing his teammate. He's now in third place. A critical mistake there, just this last lap through the final corner, has cost him a chance at maybe sneaking into P2. Still, he's looking at a podium, but his pace that was dominant in the first few rounds has suddenly left him here in recent races. Back with Michael Ross, who's now lapping a car, was playing a very clever game through almost the entire first stint, hiding behind Abner Acosta, saving fuel, taking a short stop, and is now out well ahead.
Well ahead of those guys indeed. Gonna finish that sentence for Joe. And then it's gonna be next guys, you got Acosta there in 5th place. You got Ross and you got Acosta. And then in 6th place, you got Rafael Russo in the leading BMW. So Rafael Russo, he's been very, very good in this race.
5th place.
Yeah. And Rafael Russo in 6th place. So Joe, 7th place, we got Horacio Calguin, who's been having a quiet but a good race.
Absolutely. You got Bacigalupo behind them in P8 as well. He was trying to hold on to the back of the train that he was a part of. Didn't seem to really net him much in the way of positions if he was trying to save fuel there, but that Ford is still going to get a nice top 10 today. Luis Pime Jr. was fighting with Ted Lowendick earlier. He did get that spot in the end, and that has promoted him to 9th. And Teddy, who was vying for screen time, did get a little bit, and now he's going to get a little bit more. He's in 10th, but he's under threat. Gotch and Williams right back there.
Yeah, indeed. And J.R. Williams started 12th. Mentioned how good of a starting position it is for him, and he's still in that 12th place. And he has a chance for top 10 if he plays his cards right, because there's no real threats behind him. He's got Gotch ahead of him, and he's got Lowendick ahead of him as well. And I just can't help but remember the heroics that J.R. Williams pulled off in Mosport, and wonder if it's gonna be, another one of those good races for Williams.
213 is now sizing up 2 cars in front of him as we watch them battle here for the final 16 minutes of this race. Ooh, he is really hustling it through Canada corner. Closes in a bit more on Gotch, who rides in the Ford in front of him. Can the Ferrari manage something down the front stretch? This Ford is usually slippery in a straight line. He goes for a decent exit, but you can already see Gotch starting to pull away slightly, getting the grunt out of those rear tires. So they cross the line to start lap 22. This is not going to be an opportunity for JR.
No, and Ted Lowendik's finding his pace once again. He went a little bit faster last time by managing to drop those guys back a little bit. So that 206 was definitely an anomaly, more or less, rather than the normal pace. Meanwhile, in fourth place, this battle that we were waiting for such a long time. Ross versus Acosta. We were talking about Ross saving fuel and then still coming to the pit lane at the right time. Well, Acosta is now right on the back of Michael Ross. So it might go one way or it might go the other way. But Acosta definitely, despite his relative lack of pace today, hasn't given up.
I mean, you can't give up. He's a multi-time champion, remember, Acosta. So he knows how to stick with it. Number 5 is trying to get as many points as possible. He is still our points leader, at least for the time being, until this race is over. And Paulo Munoz certainly is not going to overtake him with those 6 points. Asturi is not far enough ahead that he's going to overtake him. So we should still see that number 5 on the top of the points chart, unless something dramatic happens. And if he can get this 4th place, that will just ensure that little bit more buffer, and that could come into play when we get to the final round of 10 here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. By the way, we have lost a few cars as time has gone by. Paulo Munoz, we mentioned, has wrecked out. He's going to be scored dead last. Felipe Ruiz is the latest to call it quits today. I'm not exactly sure what happened to him. We'll have to go and investigate and see if we can figure that out. Dunnigan's still out there. He's going to inherit a spot from Ruiz soon enough. And we didn't mention it, but Christian Eisler had to come in for a second bit of repairs and is continuing to cycle around in 20th, having a bit of a sad day.
Yeah, and speaking of Ruiz, obviously no need to go to it here, but in turn number 8 on lap 19, he hit the grass on the outside, coming into the corner, which is leading to the carousel. He hit the grass on the outside, he spun to the wall, light tap of a contact, but I think he realized that his race is over and called it quits right there.
Wow. So last week's pole sitter finds his race ended prematurely, and last week's winner finds his race ended prematurely. Seems to be a bit of a curse winning at Spa this season. We continue to watch these 3 stay close together. Williams at the back of the train, Gotch in the middle, and then the dark machine at the front of it is Ted Lowendick, looking for a top 10 to add to his stats. He's coming off of a great finish at this same track in the PRL GT4 Club Sport Series. He's in slightly faster cars here today, but the pace seems to be at least decently there, even if it's not as impressive as what we saw in the lower powered cars.
Yeah, and he's been steadily improving. It's Ted's been the kind of driver. I was talking about him last season a couple of times, where he's been a little bit inconsistent. He was sometimes, starting usually in the 15th, 17th, 18th place, somewhere around there, and usually having some sort of issues throughout the race. But his biggest improvement has been this season. He's found that consistency. He found his pace, and he's been certainly practicing more. Something I can see, because he's been just, on his pace, he's been far steadier, and it's gonna bring him the results. Now that he's been able to get consistent finishes, he's been finding those top 10s, and he's gonna start his steady climb further on and elevate himself into that next pack, into the front end of that mid pack. Now he's not quite there in terms of pure raw pace or in terms of performance, where he can challenge the next group of guys. Guys like Basiga Lubo, or guys like Cal Gwyn, or guys like Rafael Russo, for example. But he could be close in the upcoming races, maybe in the last race of this season, maybe next season, is something that we're gonna see, Lowendick hopefully rise into the form even more.
I certainly love a good Cinderella story, and I'd be happy to see him find some pace and become more and more competitive. So continue to watch this fight. This is the better one to watch for now, so let's stick with this. But I'm also kind of watching Matt Hilton, who has been hunting Nick Uttehag for what is 15th And again, the reason I bring that up is because Hilton qualified 21st and has gone up a lot of spots. That closes in actually into the braking of turn one as we switch over to it now. Hilton is close in places, but he seems to be struggling at other portions of the course. Braking seems to be a strong point for him, though.
Yeah, and well, he's gonna slide a little bit wide on the exit of that corner as well. Remember that BMW, it's front engine, so it's gonna handle a little bit differently on those exits. And I think braking is a strong point, and once again, gonna bring it up, the BMW has an anti-dive feature. The BMW M8, or as we call it among friends, BMW Mate. And that car certainly rise to the occasion there. It's been traditionally good under braking, decent on a straight line, not so much in fast corners, and certainly not the option many drivers have picked for this series. But it's good to see guys like Hilton and guys like Anderson Schmid, as well as obviously Rafa Russo still sporting the BMW banner.
So is right on board now, seeing if you can catch back up after that little oopsie coming out of turn three. The 09 having at least a decent race. He's had one mistake that gave him a little bit of damage earlier on, has already recovered, picked up a few here and there. Not sure that he's going to be able to go much past Nick, as there's about 4 seconds up to Schmidt. Only 10 minutes left to go in the clock. If he's going to do something, he's going to have to probably do it soon. Oh, the car sends in deep. That might write him off in terms of trying to make that pass, though. There is a lot of time now between himself and Nick.
Yeah, and Ross and Acosta, they are still fighting very much, and you know, that's a pretty traditional thing that happens, in that once you catch up to someone, then you easily start pushing a little bit too hard, you know, go too hard for that overtaking opportunity, and then make a mistake and lose that battle once again. So it's one of those things where you just have to have a learning experience. You just have to have the experience, and Matt Hilton certainly having a valuable lesson taught to him there, even in a bit of a harsh way, but at least he received no damage. Now, Acosta here has caught up to Michael Ross right now, and he's in the draft, and he has still time to work with this if he wants.
Very much so. So let's keep an eye on here. Oh my goodness, they are really pushing to the edge, coming through the kink. You can see as Acosta tries to get himself those few valuable points. We're not missing much in front of them. Utretis ahead of Mies has distanced himself by about 4 seconds, and Asturi with his mistake is still about 8 seconds behind Mies. That podium, unless one of them makes another mistake, is probably solidified. Onto the front stretch. Acosta's looking decent there, and he's starting to reel him in. That gap's getting smaller. The slipstream's going to help him. We're going to hop on board, watch from the dashboard here.
Yeah, 7.5 minutes left, still about 4 laps, and he's not gonna look to the inside. He lifted off there. That's interesting. Mind games maybe, or maybe just biting for a better chance. He was gonna be in PRL, and that's a fast corner, not maybe wanting to take too many chances. So Acosta's been playing this race surprisingly smart. Well, not surprisingly, because he's a past champion, but you know, he's been showing real patience and real discipline in this event, because it can be hard for a past champion to accept that you're slower than the top 3 guys and you don't have the chance to catch up to them. But he's been making best with the cards he's been offered, and right now he's really playing this game right, and I'm really impressed. And that's one of the qualities of a champion. And after round number 10, after all said and done, if Abner Acosta wins a championship this year, this could be one of the defining moments. Why?
Yeah, I'd call it a maturity that we're seeing out of Abner Acosta. Kind of reminds me of Colton Herta in IndyCar lately, talking about how if he doesn't have the car for the win, you know, he just brings home a 3rd place car, a 5th place car, just racking up the points. And Acosta knows that as well. He talked about his multiple championships. He certainly knows that it's probably not worth throwing away a potential 5th just to try and get a 4th place. He has fallen back slightly. Maybe another good run up the front stretch will offer him something better. That's also something that we hadn't mentioned in there, is that was a good reconnaissance, though, for him up that front straightaway, knowing exactly how much he could gain.
Yeah, that's true too. Of course, it's gonna depend on how good of an exit you get out of the last corner, because really in the front straight, the most important bit is here. How good of an exit do you get? And once you run up that hill, you come over that hill, you really, if you make a mistake, it's gonna hurt even more because you're running up the hill and the car's gonna be slower accelerating up the hill. Granted, these cars have a lot of power. They have close to 600 brake horsepower, but still it's gonna have an effect because the guy behind you has 600 horsepower as well at his disposal under the right foot. So you don't want to make too many mistakes exiting the corner, especially uphill corners.
Behind
And
them, behind
yeah,
them, Bacigalupo's finally got Cal Quinn, and he is going to manage to get by into turn one. He used that slipstream to great effect, even though Ross and Acosta could not. Let's take one more look at that. That was a long time coming between those two. So that probably felt very good. And as we do that, and we finally got a pass with Ross and Acosta as well, down to the inside, into turn 5. Nicely done.
yeah, everything's happening right now, and I don't think Ross was fighting that too hard either. He looked like he was just, letting that place go, and nothing really interesting there. He saw that, okay, Acosta's gonna come to the inside. He had a great exit. There's nothing I can do there really into turn number 5, so no point trying to make it a fight at the exit of the corner. Not quite yet. If it's the last lap, then yes, absolutely, take the chance. But right now, no point fighting it. Instead, tuck him behind, trust your pace, Michael, and, just bring it back to him in the next couple of laps. And that's exactly what he's doing, and I'm really enjoying this because this is much more of a calmer fight than we usually see, because it's two real mature, well-disciplined racing drivers, as we're watching Bacigalupo and Cal Quinn potentially go at it once more.
Oh, Bacigalupo not covering off right now, but Cal Quinn decides not to attack as they come down into Canada corner. We, I believe, have 3 laps to go here, I think, at this point. You try to just cross the line. So it looks like 2 laps to go here for round 7. By the way, an interesting stat. Let's stay on this fight here on screen. Partly why I think Ross may be doing what he's doing. He has finished within the top 5 in all but 1 race so far this season. No, excuse me, all but 2 races so far this season. 4 top 5s for him. So he has been incredibly consistent. That's why he's sitting within the top 5 in the points currently. No chance this time for Cal Quinn to pay back Bacigalupo for that overtake. But this is far from done.
It's far from done indeed, and outside of the first race of the season, Ross has been really consistent in this championship. Not quite on the championship hunt, but consistency is the key that opens you the door to a great result. And we've been talking about it so many times as well. You need pace, but you also need that consistency to bring the race in, race out results. And be honest with yourself as well. And whoa, Cal Quinn's really getting closer and closer now. So into turn number 6 they come, and he's been really able to reel Bacigalupo in. And Bacigalupo, he has to be feeling the pressure right now.
I'd say Lucas definitely is feeling it. He put his wheel off into the grass, pushing the car very hard out of turn 5. Can easily lose it doing things like that, especially at a track like this. Nothing through the hurried downs quite yet, so they swing it through the carousel. We'll get another shot when they get to Canada corner if he can get the good exit. Cal Quinn probably trying to get as good of a run as he can out of there, and then through here in the kink. And we're going to duck away from this momentarily because Utretas takes the white flag. 1 to go for him.
What a race it's been for Javi Utrera. Still lapping low 203s. 203.1 last time by me is 203.3, but we're gonna move back to the battle between those 2 guys. It's gonna be Bacigalupo and it's gonna be Cal Quinn seeing the white flag as well, and I'd be really surprised if they finish in this quarter without a single overtaking attempt, at least from Horatio.
Ooh, he's got a great run this time as they come up the front stretch. Cal Quinn trying to reel him in, trying to do what he can on that very low-slung Ford GT defensive move from Lucas down into the first corner. He's going to make him work for it. We've seen a lot of over-unders here over the years, but no, it's going to be around the outside. And Cal Quinn somehow finds the grip at the very end of the race on the gray dirty line.
That was incredible, and he did so well to hold it around the outside. They were so close on the apex of the corner. I was sure they were gonna make contact. My heart skipped a beat, but no, great job by Cal Quinn, the ex-Counter-Strike pro, coming in clutch on that play.
Takes a defensive move. He doesn't trust him down into turn 5, but Bacigalupo does not attack. He goes for the over-under instead as they come off the corner. He gets a little bit of an overlap. Is that going to be enough? Tries to send it in deep. He's given space there. Cal Quinn once again on the outside and once again trying to defend. It switches back to the inside. They make contact this time, and Bacigalupo has to back out now that the elbows are out.
Yeah, and Bacigalupo, I think, I'm not sure if they made contact or Bacigalupo just straightened his wheel, because that was like Bacigalupo, Lucas realizing too late that, okay, he's not gonna be able to hold it around the outside.
We have to duck away from the fight. It might still continue on here, but we've got to show our leader, the number 10 of Javi Utreras, is going to get his first top 10, his first top 5, his first podium, and his first win of the season in one race here at Road America. Incredible drive ahead of Mies, who finishes in second, and Asturi claiming another podium.
Indeed, and Cal Quinn and Bacigalupo still battling on. Bacigalupo looking a little bit further away, and he needs a great exit from the last corner. He's got the entry just right. He's got the apex just right. Does he get early enough on the throttle? No, it doesn't look that way. He tried his best. It's going to be very close to the line, but it is going to be Horatio Cal Quinn taking that 7th place ahead of the driver of the sister team, Lucas Bacigalupo, and a great battle between those guys on the dying minutes.
Koch tried to keep up with Lowendick, but Lowendick is going to get himself another top 10 to add to his stats. And then the last battle we've got, I mentioned him earlier, Hilton still chasing Uttahag. If he's going to do it, he's got to do it now.
Yeah, it's very close between those guys coming through the Bill Mitchell bend. Hilton has been able to catch up, and let's see if Uttahag defends to the last corner. Oh, he's a little bit wiggly, and now Hilton needs a great exit, and it's going to be side by side right to the line. I'm not gonna call it now. It's to the inside. Hilton's gonna go to the outside. Who's gonna make it? 15th place at stake here. It's gonna be a dead hit at the line, but I think Hilton by the inches. Woo!
21st to 15th. We're gonna watch that one more time to give Hilton a little smile here, because he's got to feel good from that move. Look at this. There is about a 1.5 feet between them at the line. And it wound up being 2/100ths of a second separating the two of them. The 09 with a great move, great exit. But that's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. welcome back to Road America. We just watched round 7 in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. Javi Utreras has got to feel fantastic. It's been something of a slump this season for Utreras. Hasn't even finished within the top 10 until this race. But he goes from third to first, and he does it in emphatic fashion. It's a whole 3 seconds back to Mies. Really just wasn't challenged after the pit stops at all. Mies with a second place should still feel pretty good because by our calculations, Mies might be into third place in the points after today. We'll try and do a little bit of math and figure that one out if we can give you an update. Sturry as well finishes in third, but had a bit of an incident at one point. Threw away what could have been a much better race here today and wound up just at the bottom step of the podium. His teammate Acosta struggling once again for pace, but at the end he took the fight to Michael Ross and took fourth away from him as Ross finishes in fifth. Rafael Russo was a P6 and Horatio Calquin wound up in seventh. Lucas Bacigalupo with a nice little fight at the end wound up in P8. Luis Baim Jr. in ninth, and Ted Lowendick rounds out your top 10.
Eduardo Gach 11th, J.R. Williams gonna be 12th, right where he started. Pablo Uribe 13th, despite his little off-track incident early on, so he made a great recovery out of that one. Anderson Schmid 14th, Matt Hilton eking out 15th place away from Nick Widehag right at the end. Miguel Lopez Torres 17th, Ken Rodriguez 18th, and then we get to your list of cars lap down. Christian Eisler, he did finish the race 3 laps down at 19th. List of retired drivers, James Nunn, Stacey Dunnigan, Felipe Ruiz, and Paulo Munoz as well. So not too many retirements, a great race, and a great result for the man who Joe Peak is going to talk to next.
Yep, that would be our second place finisher, the number 88 of Rodrigo Mies. Congratulations on a podium, Rodrigo. I'm not sure how disappointed you are about not being able to claim the win, but I do have some good news for you. I believe, if our estimations are correct, you have gained 6 points on the points leader of Abner Acosta. So you are within a shout of the championship lead.
Yeah, hello guys. Yeah, it was. Uh, I'm not very happy about the second place, but the car was struggling a bit in the second part after the box. Uh, I was saving fuel, but clearly Javi did more well than me. So I lost like 1.5 seconds, and from the box to the end of the race was only to drive the car. But I'm happy about the part that you said that I'm in the battle for the championship. We will work harder with the team to get more good results like today, and aim for the win.
Well, it sounds like a good goal to me. Worth asking about how the car handled as well, because you talked about not having the pace after the stops. It was incredibly hot when the race started. It did cool down by the end by a few degrees. Did you notice the high temperatures, and did you set up the car for that, or was it just a struggle all day?
Yes, the setup was made like with 45 degrees on track, but uh, I don't know really what happened because the car started to oversteer in the exit of the corners, and I was losing a lot of time there. Uh, in the official races, that didn't happen. I don't know what was different from today, but clearly it was a setup mistake because in some laps I was faster than Javi, but I was struggling too much that in many laps I lost like 3/4 tenths with the oversteer of the car.
Well, that explains why you seem to drop away those 3 seconds at the very end. Next round is going to be Sebring, but before we get to there, do you have anybody you want to thank for today's podium?
Yes, I was say thanks to my team and thanks to my family. my my university friends that are watching too, and that's all.
Well, that was our second place finisher, Rodrigo Mies, who seems a little bit disappointed with second, but hopefully he's a little bit cheered up knowing how the championship situation has changed. Meanwhile, definitely changed a little bit for our third place finisher as Ossian has caught up with Bruno Asturi, and I believe we've got Abner Acosta to interpret for him.
Yes, hello Bruno, and hello Abner. First of all, congratulations for the podium today. You were in the battle for the race win all day long until that one final mistake. Without the mistake, do you think that you could have fought with Javi, or was he too fast?
Bruno, buenas noches. Felicitaciones en tu tercera posición. Estuviste batallando toda la carrera hasta el error que cometiste. ¿Tú crees que podías haber peleado por la victoria sin ese error?
Hola, buenas noches. La verdad que por la carrera no creo. Iba incómodo detrás cuando agarraba, estaba a menos de un segundo del auto de adelante. La verdad que no sé si era un tema de configuración o qué es lo que sucedía, pero el auto iba horrible y ya no podía ir fino, si iba, barría la trompa, si iba de cola. Pero creo que con un tercer puesto, tal vez pelear con Rodrigo un segundo puesto, pero no creo que tenía mucho más.
Good evening, guys. Bruno, for the race, he doesn't think that he could have. He doesn't think he could have fought for the win with Javi. He felt really uncomfortable the whole race, especially when behind cars. He doesn't. He just felt really loose when behind cars for whatever reason. But he thought he could have fought with Rodrigo, but definitely not for the win this time.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, Bruno, how about the race performance overall? You at Level Motorsport, you were dominant early on in the season, and I have to ask it now. Later on in the season, has your own performance as a team been falling, or have other people been able to catch up?
Bruno, en términos de performance, de cómo estamos haciendo como equipo en Level, que estábamos dominando al principio, ¿tú crees que nosotros, que la competencia está siendo mejor o crees que es otra cosa?
Es una pregunta que también me estoy haciendo, porque al principio parecía que bueno, que estábamos un poco mejor parados, ahora está costando bastante estar ahí peleando por el podio incluso. Creo que han mejorado los demás chicos y también, bueno, nada, yo justo en las últimas dos fechas no tuve mucho tiempo para entrenar, para practicar, más en la última, en esta, la verdad estuve con una mudanza y recién pude agarrar el simulador ayer una hora y ahora una hora también antes de la carrera. Pero creo que la competencia está más fuerte, están más rápido los demás competidores.
He's been asking himself the same thing because it's definitely costing a lot more to fight for even podiums now. When at the beginning, Level was dominating, but he thinks that obviously the competition has gotten better, but that also the last 2 weeks he's been moving, so he hasn't practiced as much as he was. But regardless of that, he definitely thinks the competition is getting better as well.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Well, gonna move on from Bruno briefly to you, Abner. Gonna ask you something about the same. I had that question kind of for both of you guys, but how about you? In terms of the championship, you are still leading, but Rodrigo Mies is coming closer. So on one hand, it was a bad result for Paulo Munoz, but on the other, Rodrigo Mies, he is looking strong. How confident are you regarding the championship?
In regards to pace, I'm definitely not confident at all. After I think after the race that I won, which is when I switched to my rig, I'm still fighting to find pace. I'm way off pace that I had before. I also think that people have gotten better. Yeah. But I've noticed, like, comparing my times with VRS, I'm way slower, and I'm the past two races, I've honestly just been there. Like, I'm not catching anybody. So it's getting better. I feel comfortable in the rig and everything. I don't know what it is. I can't even tell you what it is. I feel comfortable. It's just the pace is not there anymore.
Okay, well, fair enough. Thank you guys for the interview, and good luck next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, gracias. Thank you.
And next up, we have for the interview with Joe Peak, a very happy man, probably.
Yes, indeed. Javi Utretas, the Floridian, takes his first victory of the season. But not only that, we looked at your stats, Javi. You are basically all or nothing. No top tens, no top fives, no podiums, and no wins until now. This has got to feel extremely good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, the first half of the season, it was a little bit challenge for me to find time to practice it. And racing at this level, with this kind of competition that we have, you must practice. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, but I was able to find time and spend a little more time the last two races. I mean, last race and Spa, we have a good pace. Unfortunately, a mistake stole the fight for the podium, and definitely this race, I put a lot of hours to practice, put the car, all the team helping and put everything together, and definitely pay off. I mean, very, very happy for the results, and hopefully we can continue to deliver this to the team.
Obviously, we were watching you at the start. It seemed like you were at least threatening Rodrigo Mies, but then suddenly you made the move, and it looked like you had pretty good control of the race. But were you saving fuel up in front of him? Because that was a lightning quick stop. In fact, the fastest of any of the leaders, save for Bacigalupo.
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning of the race, I mean, I was waiting to see how we handled the first lap, and see how it ended up. I didn't want to risk anything. It was a little bit tricky in the first couple corners. But when I saw I have a little more pace on Bruno, I mean, Bruno was kind of all over the place. So I decided to pass him, and then I wait until I catch up Rodrigo and see what happened. I noticed that I have a little more pace, and I was saving some fuel, and I thought I have enough just to do the extra lap, and I decided to do the pass. And then I was able to save some more fuel, and the last laps were very, very tense, because I mean, I thought I have enough to make it happen. Based on my calculations, I was running very kind of short, but it looked like I have almost an extra lap. But I was very conservative the last couple of laps, trying to save fuel. And at the same time, like I said, trying to control the pace with Rodrigo, because I saw that he was kind of getting closer. So I pushed a little bit more. But at the same time, taking care of the tires, because I know that will pay off at the end. And I do believe the result that we get is because I took care of the tires very well.
So is this a case of you've taken the cork out and now the dam can open and you can maybe look at more wins? Is Sebring a place where you feel pretty confident about trying to repeat this performance?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Sebring. Matter of fact, I live only an hour and 30 minutes away from Sebring, and I've been there with my car and I've been doing some laps there. So I love the track. Very confident that we can do the same work with the team and deliver, develop a good setup to be competitive. But once again, I mean, this series is extremely competitive. I mean, the guys are they race really hard and they're very fast. So definitely we need to make sure that we have a good car and take care of the car and stay on track, and hopefully we can deliver another win, because that will be the goal, and hopefully for the rest of the season as well.
Again, congratulations on what is a pretty feel-good win, I'd say, for many viewers as well as yourself. Before you go, feel free to give any thanks or shout-outs that you please.
Absolutely. Big thanks to Rob Cos, being the team manager of Radicals. He's been helping all the time in Cranfield Simulation, Track Racer, Drill Real Timing, U-Turn Wheels, Andrew David, TC Course, Pexeludes, and Sideways, which is our main partners. And I want to just take maybe 10 seconds of your time, because just today, I'm from Ecuador, and Ecuadorian team just decided to be one of my personal sponsors. And I know they're watching the broadcast, so if you don't mind, I'm going to say some words in Spanish just to thank him. And muchas gracias por la oportunidad de NRT e-Racing. Es un orgullo ser parte de ustedes. Gracias por confiar en mí. Y qué mejor empezar esto con una victoria. Vamos para adelante y vamos a seguir con esto. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to the next round, and hopefully have the pleasure to join you guys in one more time after the race.
We hope so too. That was Javi Utreras, our winner here today. And just want to say to any drivers that ever want to give thanks or answer in their native tongue, don't be afraid to speak out, because we want you to be able to speak to all of your local fans as well. Before we go, we want to give a big thank you to our sponsors for the series. Of course, SIMSA is at Simulation Motorsports Affinity. That's SIMSA. Just lost it. SIMSA.net. There we go. I've said that a million times. And of course, the Butt Kicker, which can be found at thebuttkicker.com. If you do want to advertise with us, make sure and check out our link in the description below, where you can take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions. So definitely give that a look. Also, I want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Ossian, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or check out our social media, where our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store linked in the description. It's gsrc.storeenvy.com. But while you go down there, if you see a big red button that says subscribe, if you haven't done it yet, click it so that you don't miss a moment here with GSRC. The next race is going to be at Sebring in a week's time. That's Tuesday, August 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series, though, listed on the screen. So just check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, however, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.